Hi, parents. Kirk Jones, high school pastor, North Coast Fallbrook, bringing you the weekend recap for July the 1st. And we are continuing our series called Christianity Made Simple. And this week we talked about ministry. And so going through Colossians, let me bring my notes up real quick. Colossians chapter 1, verse 24, all the way to basically chapter 2, verse 3. Basically Paul's kind of behind the scenes, this is what ministry looks like type of a thing. And so before we even jumped in, we just talked about how a lot of people would think when I started working at North Coast back in 2005, that's when my ministry began. But actually, I was just as much in ministry when I was working at Round Table Pizza and Macaroni Grill as I am today. And so basically, the first point that I brought up was if you are a Christian, you have a ministry. It might be with family, it might be with friends, whatever it may be. But Paul basically talks about in Corinthians that we all have these different gifts, and so it's the same ministry, it's just a different platform. And the example I used is during worship, there's dozens of roles and jobs that the students can see happening on stage between worship, announcements, communion, all different kinds of things, ushers, and then there's several more dozen happening that the students don't see. Sound and tech and greeters and just all different kinds of things. So many different ways that people are serving and ministering. And so I also told your students, and you might have some students that are there, that some of them are new here, and church is very much going to be, what does church have to offer me? And that's a good thing. They need to worry about just connecting with the Lord and growing that relationship. But some of the students that come to church have been doing this for a long, long time, and they know all the important things, and they've heard the messages before, and da-da-da-da. And I said, if you don't shift gears from what does church have to offer me to what do I have to offer church, your faith is going to get stale. That is the next step in development and maturity. And not all the students are there. Some of them are. And some of them really need to start thinking, what am I good at? How do I use that for God? How can I start using it now? So we jumped in, basically 4 things on how to have an impact in your ministry. The first one was the right perspective. And Paul in Colossians chapter 24 and 25 talks about how ministry is servanthood. In fact, sometimes it's suffering. And a lot of times we expect to get appreciated and things like that, but that's not how ministry is. It's like Uno. You win when you go out. That's how ministry is. You win when you lose. You win when you lose. And we need to understand right from the get-go that sometimes it's not going to be fun. We need to have the right message, was number 2. And you could change the world. You could solve world hunger, but if you don't share Christ, you're just sending a lot of people with full stomachs to hell. And you can clean up the streets, you can fix morality, but then you're just sending a lot of good people to hell because they didn't know Jesus. Number 3, kind of riding the coattails of the right message, is the right goal. Paul says that we need to present people perfect in Christ, which is like mature and fully developed. And Jesus talked about making disciples of all nations, teaching them everything that we've learned. And sometimes we weigh more heavily a decision than we do a disciple. And the sower and the seeds, and talking about how some of those plants shot up right away. But because they were in shallow soil, the plant withered. And that's not something that we're supposed to celebrate. And so we talked about, not just running away as soon as someone makes a decision, but, nurturing that person and developing them and teaching them and pouring into them. And the last was the right power source. And Paul talks about how he struggles. He says, I struggle with all his strength, not I struggle with all my strength. And just talking about how, although this is a daunting task, we're not supposed to do it alone. In fact, we'd probably fail miserably if we did it alone. And that we're supposed to be the pipe and not the pump. So that is basically ministry made simple. And I think we've got 1 or 2 more weeks in this series, and then we'll be going away to camp and things will get crazy. So I will see you next Sunday.